This is apropos. NATO chief Mark Rutte says the military alliance is discussing the best way to reopen the strategic Strait of Hormuz, through which a large chunk of the world's oil supplies normally pass. But with the Gulf region handling over 26 million containers each year, the consequences of the current crisis extend well beyond energy. Analysts warn that prolonged disruption will have a direct impact on food production costs right around the world. Eliza Herbert has more.
Some 120 vessels usually transit through the Strait of Hormuz daily. But as the passage has become perilous, effectively blockaded by Iranian strikes, traffic has dropped by 97% since before the war. An estimated 3,200 vessels remain stranded in the Gulf. The international maritime community is concerned for their crews.
We've got hundreds of ships with 20,000 seafarers. That's the number that's being talked about, but actually that's a conservative number. It's probably going to be more than that. The vessels can't leave, they are actually trapped.
Another stalwart of the seas at risk of becoming collateral damage is the container. Some shipping groups have suspended bookings and are reserving the right to dump containers at nearby ports under a 19th century rule, costing their clients thousands of dollars in extra fees and risking stranded cargo, blocked terminals and further delays. Others are rerouting. But while only 5% of global goods travel through the strait, redirecting trade is complicated. Renewed fears of Houthi attacks in the Red Sea are threatening the Suez Canal, and remaining options between Europe and Asia require longer routes and therefore more fuel and higher charges. Within the Middle East, lorries are an alternative to move containers across land, but distances and border controls pose extra challenges and costs, especially for fresh produce companies often already plagued by thin profit margins. Businesses are describing the situation as chaos, with ripple effects likely to be felt by the consumer.
Well, to discuss all of this, we're joined now by Ebru Surucu-Balci, Assistant Professor in Circular Supply Chains at the School of Management at the University of Bradford. Thanks so much for being with us on the programme. As we saw there in that report, Ebru, shipping customers say the conflict has seen carriers adding thousands of euros in extra charges, dumping containers essentially wherever they can, often very far away from where they're supposed to be. What impact at this stage is all of this having on businesses?
Yeah, thanks. First of all, thanks for having me. So first of all, this would have a couple of impact on the industry and the consumer prices. So I want to clarify one thing first. So when a war declared or a transit point is closed, under the standard legal framework governing the global shipping, the choice where the cargoes would be left, the choice effectively belongs to the carrier. So the customers in that case have very little choice, and we are also aware that because of this reason, the shippers and freight forwarders are also exposed to extra fees charged by the shipping companies because of their rerouting, changes in discharge ports, and increased bunker prices. And the freight also increased. Freight rates are also increased because of a couple of reasons. First of all, the war risk insurance has increased quite a lot. So before the war, it was around like 0.15 to 0.25%, but as of March 11, it jumped to up to 10%, especially if the ships have ties to UK or US or Israel. And in addition to that, the emergency bunker surcharges also increased and implemented, and conflict has caused massive spike in the bunker fuel prices. Like major hubs in Singapore, fuel prices have jumped like up to 35 to 40%. And in addition to that, big companies like Maersk, MSC, CMA, CGM, they have implemented higher bunker surcharges, and the charge was actually ranging from 150 to $180 per TU for long haul rates. And obviously, this might not have a direct impact on the consumer prices for products, but they will eventually be felt by the consumers.
Yeah, and shipping groups, they're warning that they reserve the right to do all of this by invoking a 19th century rule that allows them to leave containers at the nearest available port. But what exactly is this rule, and is this the first time it's ever been applied?
Those rules are based on the law that they have developed, and unfortunately, as consumers, as the cargo owners, they have to follow the rules, because when the bill of lading, which shows the ownership of the products, in that special document, there are like some special war clauses, and when a shipper agrees to send their products, they basically agree to follow the rules if a war occurs. So the shippers also actually sign this agreement when they are finalizing their shipment arrangements.
And are certain industries here particularly affected at this stage by the disruption? We think initially perhaps of food and food costs, but what are the sectors that are going to be hardest hit by all of this?
So yes, everyone right now knows that the energy prices is gonna increase. Like the Brent oil prices increased to like $111 as of today. But the food industry, like the fresh food and the halal meat industry, it's also affected heavily, because when we look at the region, like the Qatar and the United Arab Emirates, they are heavily dependent on the imported food products, like 82% of their foods coming from abroad. For especially fresh fruits and the chilled meat products, when we look at these type of products, they have a total shelf life up to like 24 to 28 days. And because there are like existing delays, and because of the rerouting delays, which could be up to like 10 to 14 days, and because of the port congestion delays, which could be up to 11 days, the products become often spoiled and becomes like unsellable by the time they reach the retailer's shelf. And right now, what we are observing in the region is that the rejection rates at the destination points are increased up to 65%, because basically products do not meet the minimum remaining shelf life requirement for the Gulf supermarkets. For the halal meat production, the Gulf region heavily depends on the important live animals and also imported feed products like corn and soy. And what we observe in the farmers in the Middle Eastern poultry and livestock, they keep a stock for 14 to 21 days for their feed supply. And when the strait is closed, this feed shipments totally stopped. And reports indicating that the poultry producers in the region have begun prematurely culling their flocks because they cannot afford to feed them. Another problem, which is crucial, is the synthetic fertilizers. So before the crisis, probably many people was not aware of that, but the Strait of Hormuz was also mainly used for the global fertilizer trade. Specifically, more than 30% of the urea was mostly used for nitrogen fertilizers produced from the natural gas, and it's exported from the Gulf countries. So, and we know that the food production is highly dependent on the synthetic fertilizers, and which is mainly basically provided by this region. Right now, what we are hearing from the farmers from Brazil, for example, who are planting sugar and manufacturing sugar, they will probably reduce their production because of they are highly dependent on the synthetic fertilizers coming from the Gulf region, and this will eventually impact on the price of the sugar and the relevant products as well.
And Ebru, this crisis, it's really highlighted, hasn't it, the fact that global trade depends on really a surprisingly small number of narrow waterways. Talk to us a little about where the others are, and are they also vulnerable to this kind of geopolitical shock?
Yeah, when we look at, there are like some major maritime choke points, and we can think about number of different maritime choke points, and we can like classify them, 5 of them. One of them was this one, the one we are currently talking about, Strait of Hormuz. The other one was, which were also quite known, was the Suez Canal, and we mainly know the Suez Canal from the Houthi attacks. And in the last 2 years, what we observed that during those Houthi attacks, the big maritime companies were not able to use the Suez Canal, and they had to ship their products from the Cape of Good Hope, and this included like additional 10 to 14 days to the shipment dates. In addition to that, similar to Suez Canal, we also have Panama Canal as one of the critical maritime choke points, and this was also a key route. And the Panama Canal at this point might not be really in a danger for like a political problem, but the major problem would be there potentially a climate-related problem, because the issue, the water level, because in the last couple of years there was a severe drought in the region, which reduced, because of this drought, the passage of the ships was reduced significantly. And another maritime choke points was the Turkish Bosphorus and Dardanelles, which are controlled by the Turkish authorities. At this point, there is no like another political problem going on there, but during the Russia's invasion of Ukraine, Turkish authorities decide to ban the shipment, the sailings of the warships from that region. So when we look at the maritime choke points, we could also think about those as well.
Ebru, we'll have to leave it there for now. Thanks so much for being with us, though, on the programme. That's Ebru Surucu-Balci, Assistant Professor in Circular Supply Chains at the University of Bradford. Thanks so much.